Hello everyone. In our last lecture, we basically understood how an MVC project looks, and we understood what a router is and what a controller is, and then we also understood how to create a basic Node.js application and return the HTML return an HTML page and display it in the browser. So in this lecture, what we are going to discuss is about how to communicate from front end to the back end API, and from our API, how to communicate with the database so that we can store the data in our backend backend database. Our backend database here is our MongoDB server, this one. So just let's get started. Initially, during our last lecture, we ended over here, like where we created a in localhost. It actually basically sends a get request, API request, and actually gets the response from our controller. But get is not the only API request that can be sent. There is get, there is put, there is post, there is delete, and there is patch, and many more. So to show you that, I am gonna actually just change this get API request into a post API request in our backend. To change that in code, nothing much we need to do. Just go and change get into post. That's it. It is now a post request. So if you refresh the application, see, we are getting get slash, that is this URL pattern doesn't, the slash URL pattern doesn't have a get API request in our application. That is what it is showing, because we have changed it to post. So to when we have post APIs in our backend system, how to test it? If we don't have, if we can't access it from browser, for that we have a specialized tool called Postman. Inside the Postman, from Postman you can actually send various types of API requests, like get, put, post, patch. They are different types. So now we haven't created any URL patterns as such, so we'll just use that slash, sorry, and we'll send it as a post request right now and see what response we are getting from the application. See, we got the h1 create user that was sent from this controller, user.js controller h1. If it was in the browser, it would have understood it's an HTML page, and it would have shown only the create user that we saw initially. So uh, the next point I wanted to add is, uh, here we are just showing the create user, but as our application progresses, we are not just going to have only user as user controllers. We are going to have a search controller, we are going to have product controller, we are going to have a review controller. So there are going to be various types of controllers. So to uniquely identify them through our API, we have an API pattern that we need to follow. I am going to have an API pattern for a post. uh, I'm going to create an API pattern for the user router. So user router is specific to user related task. So if this API pattern occurs, that is API slash API slash user. From this, our application will understand it. It has to be, this API pattern has to be routed to user router. So which is that user router? This is that user router. Within user router, for a user itself, we can have perform different types of tasks, right? Create user, delete user, update user. So to identify which controller we need to navigate it, for create user, if we have to navigate it to create user controller, we need to know if it is uniquely identify that, right? So I'm going to add create for that controller to uniquely identify that controller. So adding it as a create. Now, if we go and in our Postman, uh, Just I will refresh the application. I have to refresh the application. See, we need to refresh the application again and restart the application again and again, right? So to avoid this, I would suggest installing NodeMon, which I will explain it to you in a while. But in the meanwhile, we'll just check it how this post is now working. Okay. So if I send the same post request right now, it will give out an error because I have changed it to we have given it an API URL pattern, that is that /API /users, which means from this it will understand it should be going to the user router. Within user router, it has to perform the create user task, the create user controller. So it has to be navigated to the create user controller. That is why it is create. And if I send it, see, now we got the response that we desired. Now, and to actually, if we don't want to restart the application again and again, the only when afterwards, every time I make a change and save it, the application will itself understand it and actually uh, restart the application. For that, we need to install a dependency called NodeMon. To install it, nothing we need to do, just exit the application and give this command npm install nodemon. It might take some time to install. Yes, it's to check it if it is installed. You can go and open the package.json. You can see how we install Express in last lecture. It has installed nodemon into our dependency. But one thing we need to notice while we are actually deploying this in our server, we need not use this nodemon over in the server, because every time a small change is happening, the server will be restarting it again and again, which will cause a downtime to the user. That we don't desire that. So only we need it during our development phase. So what we can do is just uninstall it and install it into our dev dependency. How to install it in our dev dependency? 1 minute, I'll show you. After npm install nodemon, just add this command -d. If you add it, it will add it into your dev dependency, so that our application will know it is only during the development process we need this, and it won't be used in our during our deployment phase. That's see. See, you can see it is added into the dev dependency over here. After this, we just need to add it in the scripts. I'm gonna hit as start. Then nodemon. Our application is app.js. That's it. If we just do this and actually start our application, no npm start, give this command npm start. It is just starting our application. Wait for a second. Yeah, see, node1 app.js is running. And when we get the server is up and running command, that means our application has successfully started. Yeah, starting Node.js. A server is running on port 8080. So if you can actually see here, if I make a small change over here in our development, it will be directly reflected over there in this server. We need not restart the application again and again. See, I will change it like create user. Instead of create, I'm going to add it as create user. Yes, and I also need to do that in the controllers part. Create user. See, if we after doing that, if you just go and see, check in the terminal, it is again restarting the. It already restarted while we saved in the routers user.js. Now in controllers also, when we saved, it is again running the server, and now the server is running successfully in port 8080. See, so we need not again and again restart the application. That's the advantage of NodeMon. So moving on. From our front end, that is the Insta front end, now we are actually using the Postman. We need to send, if we need to send an information from front end to the backend API, how we will send it? To send, we'll send it through our payload. That is like the payload will be sent in a JSON format. Here we are sending a raw data. For creating user, just have this data name is test, and then email, test@gmail.com, and then password. Here for basic purpose, we are sending it directly, but while we for safety purpose, while we actually send an password from front end to back end, we have to hash the password. That is how we do it in a professional environment. So sorry. From here, if I click send, yeah, this this payload is sent to the backend API, but we are not. We need to print it to check if we received it perfectly. So to see the payload, what we need to do is inside our controller, the response is the one that we are sending. You can check here, right? What is this request? That is another argument in this function. The request is what the front end or the API the request will send you in the request body. We check, you can check in the Postman. We are sending it inside the body, right? Here, if you can see, it is inside the body. So what we need to do is console.log request dot body. That's it. If you just do this and see our application is restarting by itself. Application is restarted. Now if we send an API request, it is successful over here, but let's check if it has printed the request.body. See, we are getting an undefined because we don't, our application didn't know what type of data is being sent. We need to know if it is a JSON format or what format it is being sent. For that, you just need to add one command over here in app.js, that is app.use, similar to the one in the down, express dot JSON. That's it. If you add this command and actually save it, we'll restart the application. Yeah. Now, if we send a request, API request, see in the terminal. See, we got name test, name is test, and email test@gmail.com, password in the backend server. From front end, we have communicated to the backend. So the next process is to communicate from our backend to our database. So how to connect our front end backend API to database? In our case, it is MongoDB, right? So for that, we are using Magoose dependency. This dependency is similar to like Hibernate ORM for a Spring Boot application. So it will help us avoid all the boilerplate clothes, and just we need to run queries that we need when a requirement arises. For that, connecting to the database, you need to we are following MSC pattern. So I'm gonna add the folder called DB. Inside the DB, I'm gonna create an index.js file. Before that, we need to install the dependency. So for that, just exit the application, and then we need to install npm install mongoose. This is a big package, so it is taking quite long time. Yes. Yeah, it is completed. Yeah, completed with zero vulnerabilities. You can check again in package.json. Mongoose is added to the dependencies. Now, inside my database, I need to give this command const mongoose equal to require mongoose. This is I'll actually take care if mongoose is actually used in this index.js page. After that, we need to add the command how to connect with our MongoDB database. Is simple command, just mongoose dot connect, and this will actually do connect with we need to enter just the local URI of our database, then it will actually connect it to the database. How to get the local URI of the database? Just click onto this uh, your MongoDB compass, go over there and just click over here and copy string connection. This, you know, paste it over here, MongoDB localhost slash our database name. Our specific database name, we are using this movie review. So I'm just gonna give. And this connect process is basically an asynchronous process. What I mean by asynchronous process is that the process actually starts once it is started. We don't wait for the final response to be sent. It will be after completing it. It will parallelly completing it. It will just send the response only after it completes it. But we will actually start the process, and we'll move on to our next steps of in our code. That's it. That is like while initially starting our application itself, we will actually say connect to the database. And then we'll start our application. We don't have we don't check if the Mongoose is connected or not. In the end, if it is connected, it will say Mongoose, MongoDB database is connected. If it is not connected, it will say database is not connected and throw error. To see that, we actually need to add this command dot then and an arrow function console dot log db connected successfully. If it didn't connect successfully, then we need to look for the error statement. So for that dot catch console dot log db connection has some error. And error. That's it. That's it in this file. After that, we just need to in our app.js, we need to add this command require dot slash db. That's it. Now if we start our application, npm start, it will actually basically while starting the application itself, it will check and if send if it is able to connect with the database or not. This might take some time because connecting to the database takes quite some time. Server is running on port 8080. See, that command is executed even before DB is connected command, because even though that process has started before itself, see, this require it will itself start the DB connection process, but the next steps have been executed even before this step is complete. That is what is asynchronous processing is. See, okay, we have a connection error. There's some sort of error that occurred while connecting to our MongoDB database. Okay. See, from this error itself, we can understand that, see, error connection refused. This 27017 means our MongoDB URI. That is we gave here, right? Yeah, that you can check. But then what is this ::1? That ::1 is like in our local database, it is actually accessing that one. If our local host is 127.0.0, it is listening to that first port, like not the port, the first IP address. That is where but our some mistake is happening. So to avoid this, we can actually totally remove this local host. and just enter the IP address directly, that is 127. For me, it's 127.0.0.1. And if I run it, it would have restarted by now. The DB is connected successfully. See, this is how we connect and from our backend API to the database. So in our next lecture, we'll see how we can use the Mongos to actually create an user in our database. Thank you. That's it for this lecture.